I ordered the ride late at night after leaving a friend's apartment. The street was quiet and the gray sedan waiting at the curb matched the car shown in the app. The driver's name was Diane, and the engine was already running when I approached the passenger door. The window rolled down and a middle-aged woman leaned slightly toward me with a bright and welcoming smile. She greeted me with a cheerful tone that immediately made the situation feel relaxed.
Hey there, you must be Colin.
Yeah, that's me.
Good, hop in.
The inside of the car smelled clean and warm. Soft music played quietly while she pulled away from the curb and joined the avenue traffic. Diane began talking almost immediately, asking simple questions about work in the neighborhood. Her voice carried a natural friendliness and she laughed easily during the conversation. The ride started like any normal trip through the city. Nothing about her behavior suggested anything strange or dangerous. The car continued down the avenue while she kept chatting in an energetic and pleasant way. At that moment, the ride felt completely normal. After several minutes, the subject of the conversation slowly shifted. Diane began talking about the people she meets while driving for Uber and how many passengers share personal stories during rides. She said people often feel lost and uncertain about their lives. Her voice became more serious while explaining these thoughts. She spoke about temptation and how the world pushes people away from the right path. Then she mentioned church. Diane explained that she volunteers every Sunday and believes faith gives people the discipline they need. The energy in her voice grew stronger while she spoke.
You know, people forget what really matters.
I looked out the window as traffic lights passed above us. What do you mean? She tightened her hands on the steering wheel before answering.
I mean, people forget God.
A few seconds later, she asked the question.
Do you believe in God, Colin?
I answered honestly. No, I'm an atheist. Her smile vanished immediately. Diane stopped speaking the moment I finished that sentence. The silence inside the car felt sudden and heavy while she kept her eyes locked on the road ahead. Her hands gripped the steering wheel much tighter than before. I waited for her to say something, but she continued driving without a single word. The calm conversation that had filled the ride earlier disappeared completely. Streetlights moved across the windshield while the engine hummed quietly. The tension in the car kept building with every passing second. I leaned forward slightly and tried to calm the situation. Hey, I didn't mean anything by that. People just believe different things. Diane still did not respond. Instead, her foot pressed down on the accelerator. The engine growled louder and the car surged forward. The sudden acceleration pushed me back into the seat while the sedan shot past a slower vehicle ahead of us. Traffic around us began reacting as Diane moved aggressively between lanes without warning. Karen slowed down a little. She did not acknowledge the request. Instead, she began speaking again with a loud and intense voice.
Luke 12:5. Fear the one who can destroy both soul and body.
Her tone sounded furious now. The friendly driver from earlier had completely disappeared. Cars around us began honking while the speedometer climbed higher. We approached an intersection where several vehicles were crossing the street. Diane never touched the brakes. We blasted through the intersection while two drivers swerved violently out of our path. My voice rose with panic. Diane, stop the car. The speedometer passed 70 miles per hour. We were still driving through city traffic. The engine roared while Diane pushed the car even faster down the avenue. Drivers behind us honked constantly while others swerved out of the way to avoid being hit. My hands trembled while gripping the door handle. Tears began running down my face while the panic fully set in. She slammed her palm against the steering wheel and screamed another verse.
The sinner cannot escape judgment.
Then I saw the wall ahead. Several blocks down the avenue stood a tall, concrete barrier surrounding an old industrial lot. The road ended directly at that wall before turning sharply to the side. Diane stared directly toward it. She never slowed down.
I know your kind. Wolves disguised as sheeps. You play good until you have the chance to corrupt people. No, I will not let that happen. You are not going to corrupt me.
The engine screamed while the speedometer climbed past 90. I leaned forward desperately while shouting, "Diane, you're going to kill us," she screamed back with violent fury.
So be it. This is God's judgment.
The wall filled the windshield. Diane never touched the brakes. The car slammed into the concrete barrier with a crushing explosion of metal. The impact felt like the world collapsing inward. The front of the car crushed instantly while the seatbelt slammed into my chest and forced the air from my lungs. For several seconds, everything around me blurred together while my ears rang loudly. When my vision slowly cleared, I could hear people shouting and running toward the wreck. Drivers had stopped along the avenue and were rushing toward the destroyed sedan. I tried to stand up and climb out. The moment my legs touched the ground, a violent pain shot through my body and forced me back down. My legs collapsed beneath me immediately. I looked down and saw my right leg bent in a direction that made no sense. Someone nearby shouted for an ambulance. My head slowly turned toward the driver's seat. Diane sat slumped forward against the steering wheel. Blood covered the front of the dashboard. Her eyes were open, and she was smiling. The doctors later told me surviving the crash had been extremely unlikely. The car had folded around the front seats during the impact. My leg was shattered in multiple places and required several surgeries before the bones could heal. Even after months of treatment, the damage remained permanent. Now I move everywhere in a wheelchair. The physical injury changed my life completely, but the memories from that ride remain just as strong. Some nights I still hear Diane shouting those verses while the engine pushed faster and faster. There is one detail about my situation that people often find strange. I still use Uber regularly, not because I want to, because traveling across the city with a wheelchair leaves very few options.